The night was settling over the park, a cool breeze rustling through the trees, but for Logan, the surroundings barely registered. His focus was locked on Tyler, the gay cop, whose uniform hugged every inch of his muscular body in a way that made Logan's thoughts run wild. Tyler wasn't just attractive. He radiated a raw masculinity that Logan couldn't ignore. Every movement Tyler made seemed deliberate, a silent invitation for something more. Logan had noticed Tyler's lingering glances before, but tonight, something felt different. There was a charged tension in the air, and Logan could feel it. The way Tyler looked at him, the intensity in his eyes. This wasn't just casual interest. There was something deeper, something forbidden simmering between them. Tyler, on the other hand, was fighting a battle within himself. The gay thoughts that had plagued him for years were now crashing down with a force he could no longer suppress. Every time he saw Logan, those thoughts grew louder, more intense. He couldn't help but imagine what it would be like to give in, to let go of all the control he'd kept for so long. When Tyler walked over to Logan, his usual composed demeanor seemed to falter. His eyes flicked down to Logan's lips for just a second before he quickly regained control. "Everything good here?" His voice was deep, but there was a slight tremor, a hint of what he was trying so hard to hide. Logan couldn't help but smirk. He could see the tension in Tyler's eyes, could feel the heat between them rising. "Depends on what you mean by good," Logan replied, his voice low and laced with suggestion. He stepped closer, feeling the air between them crackle with electricity. Tyler's heart raced, his thoughts spiraling out of control. The gay desire he had buried for so long was bubbling to the surface. He wanted Logan, wanted him more than he could admit, and it was becoming impossible to deny it any longer. "Maybe I'm a little distracted," Tyler muttered, his gaze drifting back to Logan's lips. Logan, sensing that Tyler was on the edge, leaned in slightly, closing the distance between them. "Distracted by what?" he teased, his breath warm against Tyler's skin. Tyler swallowed hard, his mind racing. He could feel the heat radiating from Logan's body, the pull of desire overwhelming his usual restraint. "I don't know if I can keep fighting this," Tyler finally whispered, the words escaping before he could stop them. Logan's pulse quickened. He knew what Tyler was talking about, and it thrilled him. "Then don't." The silence between them was thick, heavy with unspoken promises. When Tyler looked into Logan's eyes, he knew they were crossing a line, one he could never uncross. The desire between them was undeniable now. Tyler took a deep breath, his mind swirling with gay thoughts he had spent years trying to bury. But here, standing so close to Logan, all those walls were crumbling. "Let's go," Tyler whispered, his voice husky with want. He grabbed Logan's wrist, pulling him away from the crowd and into a secluded corner of the park. The city lights were a distant blur now, leaving them enveloped in darkness. In the shadows, Tyler pushed Logan up against the wall, with a force that surprised him. But it only made Logan more excited. Tyler's body pressed against his, their breathing shallow and quick. All the restraint Tyler had tried to hold on to was gone now, replaced by raw, unfiltered desire. "I can't fight this anymore," Tyler growled, his lips so close to Logan's that they were almost touching. "I've been trying, but I can't stop thinking about you." His eyes were dark, filled with a hunger that made Logan shiver with anticipation. Logan's body responded instantly to Tyler's touch. "Then stop fighting," he whispered back, and their lips finally met in a kiss that was intense, desperate, like they had both been waiting for this moment for far too long. Tyler's hands were everywhere, on Logan's hips, running through his hair, down his back. Each touch sent a jolt of pleasure through Logan's body, and he knew he needed more. Tyler pinned Logan against the wall, their bodies moving together with a heat that made the air around them feel like it was on fire. "I've wanted you for so long," Tyler murmured, against Logan's skin, his voice rough with desire. "Every time I saw you, it drove me crazy." Logan gasped as Tyler's hands roamed his body. "I've thought about this too," Logan admitted, his own hands exploring Tyler's hard frame. "I've imagined it so many times." The two of them were completely lost in the moment. The world around them had disappeared, leaving only the heat and passion that burned between them. Tyler pulled Logan closer, their bodies pressing together as the desire between them reached a boiling point. Tyler's breath was ragged as he looked at Logan with a grin. "You think you can handle all of this?" Before Logan could answer, Tyler pulled him in for another fierce kiss, his hands moving with a hunger that spoke of all the gay thoughts he had tried to repress for so long. As the intensity between them grew, Logan could feel Tyler's control slipping. The cop, who had always seemed so in charge, was now completely consumed by desire. But just as things were heating up, Logan noticed a flicker of something else in Tyler's eyes, something darker, a hesitation that hadn't been there before. "Tyler, what's going on?" Logan asked, breathless from the heat of their encounter. But now noticing the shift in Tyler's demeanor, Tyler took a step back, running a hand through his hair. "There's something you don't know about me," he admitted, his voice suddenly serious. "I'm not just a cop." Logan blinked, confused. "What do you mean?" Tyler sighed, his gaze dropping to the ground. "I've been working undercover. I'm involved in an investigation. Something dangerous. If we keep doing this, you could get pulled into it, Logan, and I don't want that." Logan's heart raced, but not from the same heat as before. "What kind of danger?" Tyler hesitated, clearly torn between his feelings for Logan and the reality of his situation. "There are people after me, people who won't hesitate to hurt anyone close to me. Logan felt a chill run down his spine. So, what does that mean for us? Tyler looked him straight in the eye. It means we have to be careful. If we're seen together, it could put you at risk. Logan's mind was spinning, but instead of backing down, he stepped closer to Tyler. I don't care, he said firmly. I'm not going anywhere. Tyler stared at him, a mix of desire and fear in his eyes. Are you sure? Because once you're involved, there's no turning back. Logan nodded, determination in his voice. I want to be with you, no matter what. Tyler exhaled, clearly conflicted, but he couldn't deny what he felt. Then come with me. But know this, things might never be the same. The night had turned into a blur of adrenaline, danger, and desire. Logan could feel the tension between them, thickening with every mile as Tyler gripped the steering wheel. The headlights of the cars chasing them grew brighter, closing in fast. Tyler's eyes were focused, his expression a mix of determination and worry. They're here, Tyler muttered under his breath, glancing quickly in the rearview mirror. Logan's pulse quickened. The gravity of the situation became painfully real. This wasn't just about the two of them anymore. It was about life and death, the passion, the secrets. Everything felt secondary now, compared to the raw need to survive. Without warning, a truck pulled into the road ahead, blocking their escape. Tyler cursed under his breath and swerved hard to avoid it, but the car spun out of control. Logan's heart lurched into his throat. In an instant, the world tilted. Metal clashed with metal. The sound of screeching tires and the deafening crunch of impact filled the air as their car collided violently with the truck. The force of the crash sent Logan's body slamming into the door, and everything went dark. When Logan came to, his vision was blurry. Pain radiated through his body, but that wasn't his concern. The smell of gasoline hung heavy in the air, mixed with smoke and the cold bite of night air. Groaning, he tried to move but felt sharp pain in his ribs. The car had stopped, wedged against the truck, its front end crumpled like paper. Tyler, Logan croaked, turning his head, his heart pounding as panic set in. Tyler wasn't moving. His head rested limply against the steering wheel, blood trickling down his temple. Tyler, Logan shouted louder, panic now overtaking him. He struggled to reach for Tyler, his hands trembling as he touched his shoulder, but there was no response. The deafening silence that followed was suffocating. Logan's vision blurred with tears as he leaned closer, shaking Tyler, his voice breaking. No, please wake up. The sirens wailed in the distance, their eerie sound getting closer, but time seemed to stand still for Logan. He felt a cold, hard knot form in the pit of his stomach. Tyler wasn't breathing. Logan's body shook with sobs, the weight of the moment crushing him. The man who had turned his world upside down, the man he loved, was gone. The adrenaline that had fueled their escape now left Logan in the darkest silence he'd ever felt. Hours passed like a blur. Logan was in the hospital, bruised, battered, and wrapped in bandages, but his mind was somewhere far away. The doctors and nurses came and went, but none of them could reach him. He barely remembered the police asking questions, or how he ended up here. The only thing he could see, over and over again, was the image of Tyler's lifeless body in that wreckage. Tyler was dead. Those words kept echoing in Logan's mind, each time cutting deeper. As he lay in the sterile white hospital bed, Logan's thoughts drifted back to the moments before the accident. The passion, the connection. The way Tyler had looked at him with such intensity, it seemed unreal that someone who had been so full of life and fire could be gone so suddenly. They hadn't even had time to figure out what their relationship really meant. Now, there would never be time. The door to his room opened, and a detective stepped in. Logan barely registered him at first, his mind still lost in the haze of grief. Mr. Miller. The detective's voice broke through the fog. I'm sorry for your loss, but we need to talk about what happened. Logan blinked, pulling himself back to reality. Oh, bada. What is there to talk about? Tyler's dead. His voice cracked, his throat tight with emotion. The detective gave him a somber look. We know Tyler was involved in something bigger. We're trying to figure out how deep it goes. But we need your help. Logan frowned, his heart aching with the weight of everything. I don't know what you want me to say. Tyler was protecting me. He was trying to save me from whatever those people wanted. That's what we're trying to piece together. Tyler was working undercover, but he kept a lot of things off the record. We're just trying to understand what he knew and what he got involved in. Logan stared at the ceiling, the tears welling up again. He didn't deserve this. He didn't deserve to die. The detective shifted, clearing his throat awkwardly. I'm sorry, Logan, but you need to be careful now. Whoever was after Tyler, they could come for you too. Logan's heart skipped a beat. The gravity of the detective's words hit him hard. He wasn't just grieving Tyler's death. He was now tangled in a web of danger that he barely understood. Logan left the hospital a few days later, but the world felt different. Everything had changed. Tyler was gone, and with him, a part of Logan had died too. The apartment they had shared brief moments of passion in now felt cold and empty. He tried to focus on anything that would distract him, but the pain of losing Tyler was constant. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw Tyler's face, felt his touch, remembered their last kiss, and yet, there was something more, something gnawing at the back of his mind. Logan couldn't shake the feeling that he was being watched. It started as a whisper of paranoia, but the more he tried to ignore it, the louder it got. One night, As he lay in bed, the sound of a car engine idling outside made his blood run cold. Logan's pulse quickened. His heart pounded in his chest as he crept to the window. A dark sedan sat parked across the street, its lights off. The silhouette of a figure in the driver's seat was barely visible. Logan's breath caught in his throat. He backed away from the window, trying to calm his racing thoughts, but he knew. Whoever had been after Tyler, they hadn't stopped. They were coming for him now. Logan sat alone in the dark of his apartment, his body still trembling from the sight of the mysterious car parked outside. The street was quiet, but Logan's mind was racing. He could feel it. He was being watched. Tyler's warning echoed in his ears. If they know about us, you're in danger too. The last few weeks had felt like a whirlwind of emotions. The passion he had shared with Tyler, the revelations that had come to light after Tyler's death, and now the constant feeling of being followed, hunted. Logan had tried to stay out of trouble, but trouble had a way of finding him. The car outside hadn't moved for hours. Its dark silhouette sat ominously across the street, headlights off, and the figure inside remained motionless. Logan's pulse raced as he paced the room, his thoughts spiraling out of control. Every sound, the creak of the floor, the rustle of the wind, made him jump. His phone buzzed on the counter, snapping him out of his frantic thoughts. Detective Wilson's voice on the other end of the line was low, filled with concern. "Logan, you said someone's been watching you. What exactly did you see?" "There's a car parked across the street," Logan replied, his voice trembling. "It's been there all night. I swear someone's inside, but they're not moving." Wilson paused for a moment. "Stay calm. Don't go outside. I'm sending someone over right now." Logan hung up the phone and glanced nervously toward the window. The figure in the car hadn't moved, but it didn't make him feel any safer. The apartment suddenly felt claustrophobic, as if the walls were closing in around him. He double-checked the locks on the doors, his heart hammering in his chest, and closed the blinds, hoping to block out the sight of the car. For a moment, he tried to distract himself by thinking of Tyler. Memories of their last moments together flooded his mind. The way Tyler had looked at him with such intensity, the passion between them, that it felt almost too intense to be real. But those memories were now tinged with sadness and betrayal. Tyler's death had shattered Logan, but the secrets Tyler had kept, the double life he had led, cut even deeper. Logan had thought he knew Tyler, but after the accident, everything changed. The revelation that Tyler had been involved in something dangerous, something that had put both of their lives in jeopardy, weighed heavily on him. What had once been a relationship filled with desire and longing now felt like a ticking time bomb, and Logan was still caught in the blast. Suddenly, there was a loud knock on the door. Logan's body tensed immediately. His heart skipped a beat. Who could that be? It was far too soon for Wilson's backup to have arrived. "Logan," a voice called from the other side, deep and unfamiliar. Logan took a step back, confusion mixing with fear. "Open the door, we need to talk." He hesitated, his mind racing. The voice wasn't Wilson's, and it wasn't anyone he recognized. Logan's hands were shaking as he backed away from the door, his mind spinning with possibilities. Was it someone connected to Tyler's investigation? Someone who knew what Tyler had done and what Logan had become involved in? Another knock, louder this time, made him jump. "Logan, I know you're in there." Whoever this person was, they weren't going away. Logan swallowed hard and glanced around the room, searching for anything he could use to protect himself. His hand hovered over the phone again. Should he call Wilson? Should he try to escape? Before he could decide, the door crashed open with a deafening crack. The force splintered the frame, sending wood flying in every direction. Logan gasped and stumbled backward, his eyes widening as a large figure stepped into the room. The man was tall, his frame filling the doorway, his face obscured by shadows. Logan's breath caught in his throat. The man moved with a cold, calculated precision, each step purposeful, as if he knew exactly what he was here to do. Logan's voice trembled. "Who are you? What do you want?" The man stepped forward, his face coming into view, his expression unreadable. His dark eyes bore into Logan's, sending a chill down his spine. "I'm here to finish what Tyler started," he said, his voice calm but menacing. Logan's stomach twisted. He shook his head in disbelief. "What are you talking about, Tyler?" "Tyler was supposed to bring you to us," the man interrupted, his voice cold and unfeeling. "But now that he's gone, it falls to me." Logan's mind was spinning. He didn't understand what was happening, but the fear was growing stronger. Tyler had been keeping secrets, dangerous secrets. Was this the world Tyler had tried to shield him from? The world he had unknowingly stepped into? The man reached out and grabbed Logan by the arm, his grip painfully tight. "You don't have a choice, Logan. You're coming with me." Panic surged through Logan's body, but adrenaline took over. Without thinking, he twisted free of the man's grip and shoved him back. The man staggered, momentarily caught off guard. Logan took his chance and bolted for the back of the apartment, his mind screaming for him to get out. But the man recovered quickly. In an instant, he lunged at Logan, catching him by the shoulder and slamming him against the wall. Logan's head hit the plaster with a sickening thud, stars bursting in his vision. His body ached, but he couldn't give up now. The man leaned in close, his voice a low growl. "Tyler was supposed to deliver you to us, but he failed. Now I'll finish what he couldn't." Logan's chest tightened with terror. Everything was unraveling too fast. He struggled against the man's hold, his mind racing for a way out. But just as the man moved to drag him toward the door, the sound of footsteps echoed down the hall. Suddenly, the door burst open again. This time, With a rush of heavy footsteps, Detective Wilson stormed into the room, his gun raised, and his eyes blazing with intensity. "Freeze!" Wilson shouted, his voice cutting through the chaos. The man paused, his grip on Logan loosening slightly, but his eyes never left Logan's. Wilson stepped forward, his aim steady. "Let him go, or I'll drop you where you stand." The man's face twisted into a snarl, but after a tense moment, he slowly released Logan and raised his hands in mock surrender. "You can stop me, but it won't change anything." Logan's already in too deep. Wilson quickly moved to cuff the man, his movements swift and professional. But Logan's mind was still reeling from the encounter. He leaned against the wall, his breath ragged, his body shaking. "You okay?" Wilson asked, glancing over at Logan while keeping the man under control. Logan nodded. Though his hands were still trembling, his voice was barely a whisper. "Who is he? What does he want?" Wilson's jaw clenched as he finished securing the man. "There's a lot you don't know about Tyler's involvement in this. We need to talk, Logan. You're not safe." Logan's heart sank. He had thought the worst was over, but now it seemed that Tyler's secrets ran deeper than he ever could have imagined. The man who had claimed to love him had also dragged him into a world of danger that he barely understood. The detective's words echoed in Logan's mind. "You're not safe." Logan sat at the kitchen table, his knuckles white as he gripped the edges, struggling to process everything that had been thrown at him in the last few hours. Detective Wilson sat across from him, his face etched with concern, his words still hanging in the air like a thick fog. Tyler had promised Logan to them. The words replayed in Logan's mind, each time cutting deeper. The man he had trusted, the man he thought had loved him, had used him as leverage in some dark, dangerous game. How had things spiraled so far out of control without him even realizing it? Wilson was watching him carefully, his tone more measured now. "Logan, I know this is a lot to take in, but you need to understand something. Tyler wasn't trying to hurt you. At least I don't believe he was, but he was in way over his head. By the time he realized what he had done, it was too late." Logan shook his head, disbelief and anger crashing over him in waves. "How could he do this to me? He said he loved me, and now I find out he was going to hand me over to these people like some kind of bargaining chip." Wilson's expression softened, but his voice remained firm. "Tyler thought he could protect you. I don't know what his exact plan was, but I do know that he cared about you. Whatever mistakes he made, he was trying to fix them by the end." Logan's chest tightened, his hands trembling as he stared at the floor. Tyler was dead, and now the only things left were the shattered pieces of their relationship and the dangerous secrets he'd kept hidden. What had started as a passionate affair had turned into a nightmare, one that Logan was still caught in. "Who are these people?" Logan finally asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Why did Tyler get involved with them in the first place? Wilson leaned back in his chair, exhaling slowly. "That's the part we're still trying to piece together. Tyler was undercover, working on dismantling a criminal network, but at some point he crossed a line. He started making deals with them, cutting corners, and they found a way to pull him in. These people, they're powerful. And they don't just let go once they have their hooks in someone." Logan's stomach twisted in knots. The more Wilson revealed, the more tangled this web became. "So what happens now?" he asked, his voice hoarse with exhaustion. "Are they going to keep coming after me?" Wilson's face grew darker, the tension in the room thickening. "Yes," he said bluntly. "They see you as part of the deal Tyler made. As far as they're concerned, you owe them something, and they won't stop until they get it." Logan felt the floor drop out from under him. His heart raced as the reality of his situation hit him like a freight train. "What the hell am I supposed to do, Wilson? How do I get out of this?" The detective leaned forward, his eyes locked onto Logan's. "You need to stay with me. I'll put you under protective custody. We'll keep you safe while we figure out a way to shut them down for good. But you have to trust me, Logan. These people don't play by the rules, and they won't hesitate to hurt you if they get the chance." Logan's mind raced. Could he really trust Wilson? The man had shown up when he needed help, but after everything that had happened with Tyler, Logan didn't know who he could believe anymore. But he didn't have much of a choice. If these people were as dangerous as Wilson said, Logan was running out of options. "I don't have a choice, do I?" Logan muttered bitterly. Wilson shook his head. "Not if you want to stay alive." Logan stared out the window, the darkness outside feeling oppressive. He felt like a prisoner in his own life, caught in the middle of a game he didn't understand. Tyler was gone, but his actions had left a trail of destruction that was still unfolding. The warehouse was eerily quiet, the dim lights casting long shadows across the concrete floor. Logan's heart raced as he stood before the well-dressed man, his body tense, his mind racing for a way out. "I don't know anything," Logan pleaded, his voice trembling. "Whatever Tyler was involved in, I'm not a part of it." The man smiled coldly, his eyes like ice. "Tyler thought he could keep you safe, but he was wrong. You're very much a part of this now." Logan took a step back, but the men flanking him closed in, blocking any chance of escape. The walls of the warehouse felt like they were closing in, the air thick with tension. He was trapped, helpless, and the weight of Tyler's betrayal crushed him. "You see," the man continued, stepping closer, "Tyler made a deal, but he didn't live long enough to keep his end of the bargain." Logan's chest tightened. "What do you want from me?" The man's smile widened. "I want what Tyler was hiding. You." Before Logan could react, the man reached into his coat and pulled out a gun, the metallic click echoing through the warehouse. Logan's blood ran cold, his eyes widening in horror. In one swift motion, the man raised the gun and fired. The sound of the shot rang in Logan's ears as everything went dark. He stumbled, gasping for air. As pain exploded in his chest, his hands flew to the wound. Blood seeping through his fingers, he collapsed to the ground, the world around him spinning, fading as his vision dimmed. The last thing Logan saw was the man's cold, satisfied smile.